Welcome, everyone. We are going to go into figuring out your best recipe for your downward facing dog. We all have different bodies, they're set up differently. Our joints have a different kind of mobility. So it's great to take some time to refine your postures in yoga to find out what is best for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Jump on your mat and get onto your hands and knees. The first thing we'll talk about is the concept of stacking your joints. So this puts the least amount of pressure on your joints by having your shoulder, elbow, and wrist in one line. So you'll want your hands to be as wide as your shoulders. So you'll see a straight line down from them. Now, the second thing we're going to do is make sure that our wrists are also straight from our shoulders. And what I mean by that is the angle that they are, this way to that way. So sit on your knees or on your heels and bring your hands up like this, so straight in front of you. And then when people do downward facing dog, a lot of times I see them put their middle fingers parallel with each other, right? But if you look at your hands and you have your middle fingers parallel, I want you to see what these two, the very middle place where your wrist is, where your hand meets your arm, when you bend it, look at that spot and see if it's flat. Because when I place my middle fingers parallel, the outside of my wrist is angled up and the inside of my wrist is angled down just slightly. Now, if I turn my hand so that my pointer fingers are parallel, my wrist is more straight. So make sure your arms are straight and elbows are straight when you do this as well. So this is usually a happier place, having your pointer fingers parallel, but just take a look for yourself. Take a moment to play around and find how to make your wrist bones the most straight. Once you figure that out, go ahead and go back to your position. Hands underneath the shoulders, spread your fingers nice and wide. Good. And next joint is our elbow joint. Some people might have a very overextended elbow joint. You can see my elbow joint does this slightly where it angles like this, right? Instead of just being straight. So if your arm does this, do a micro bend in your elbow. That helps keep this straight line easy on your joints so we don't have pain or problems later on down the road. Great. The next joint is our shoulder joint. So a lot of times people will open up their shoulders like this for downward facing dog. But what we want to think about is drawing these armpits in towards our face. And it'll take, I call this the eye of your elbow, right? This part. We'll take that and bring it more towards the front of the room. So see that rotation of our arm towards the front of the room. So that's the position you want to have for your shoulders. And with that, you'll have a sensation of drawing down and back this muscle right here. So just practice that. See what that feels like to draw your armpits towards your body, rotating the eyes of your elbows forward or up right now, and then pulling in, down and back with these muscles right here below your shoulders, right on the sides of your shoulder blades. Beautiful. So that's the arm position that we want to get into. So to get to our legs, we'll have to actually get into the pose. Start with your hands, your wrists, fingers wide, your elbows, maybe they're slightly bent, armpits rolling in, eyes of your elbows facing forward. Good. Now tuck your toes and send your hips back and up, downward facing dog. Beautiful. So from here, we'll want to really focus on lifting our tailbone up. Now, the same thing applies for your knee joints as it does for your elbow joints, where if your knees tend to overextend, we'll want to bend them just a little bit. There's another reason why you might want to bend your knees, and that's if you have really tight hamstrings. It is completely okay to keep your knees bent if your tailbone is up high. Sometimes I'll see people straighten their knees and their upper or lower back will bend like that. It's better in downward facing dog to have knees bent, but a straight back and lower back being extended up towards the sky. So that's what we're going to focus on more here. So you'll draw your navel in towards your spine, so your low belly is drawn in. Your low belly is also brought closer to your thighs by pressing your arms and your head and upper body through your arms. Good. Now let's check in with our feet. Your feet will want to be about hip width distance, right? Keeping that stacking straight line, straight from your hips all the way down to your feet. And then check in with your heels. They want to be straight behind your toes, so you can't really see them. So they might, if they're out or in, just bring them straight behind your feet. Good. So now let's do all the check-ins. Fingers, wrists, elbows, shoulders. Good. Lifting up through the tailbone, so a nice long elongated spine. Tailbone flipping up towards the sky. Good. Low belly is moved closer to the thighs. Heels pressing down behind the toes. Feet hip width distance. And always okay to keep your knees a little bent and elbows slightly bent, keeping those muscles engaged. So we want to keep all the muscles in the legs engaged and active. This is a very active pose. Take a few breaths here. Just memorize how this feels for you. So I hope you enjoyed that little recipe, learning your body, what works best for you. And I encourage you to do this with a bunch of different poses, just exploring what's right for your body and your body shape. Thanks for tuning in.